As explained, I'm Daniele Romano. My role within ING is a global product owner of the continuous delivery pipeline. And as product owner, I'm responsible of defining the vision and making sure that we execute the vision and rolling out the continuous delivery pipeline across the globe. But today, I don't want to only show the continuous delivery pipeline. Trust me, it's a nice pipeline. I don't think it's the best pipeline in the world, but I would like to explain a bit the journey. So what we did at ING to reach this level of continuous delivery. And it's a journey that started back in time, in 2012. And well, I think we did great progress, but we still have many challenges ahead. And I hope that the senior management will still invest on this initiative. To better understand the journey, what we should do a step back in 2012. We were not playing rugby. Well, still football, soccer is our favorite sport. We are sponsoring the Dutch national soccer team, but we were doing Scrum. So Agile, Scrum especially, was our religion. We had all the practices on the floor. We were doing the planning, we were doing the retro, the daily stand-up to track the progress and to monitor the impediments. Yet management was not really happy about the lead time, the time to market, and about the quality of our software system. And well, this picture, we loved Agile and Scrum so much that then we started visualizing the release journey, the release process on the brown paper. And you can see that, well, it's not the easiest journey. I'm sure you cannot read the blue stickies, but trust me, it represents the time. And for some steps, we are talking about weeks. And actually, I could not manage to have all the release process in one slide. So we were doing definitely something wrong. With this complex release process, well, it's not a surprise, but when you are about to release, you don't have any confidence on what you are doing. You cannot even remember all the steps that across weeks or months you followed. And if you find somewhere some courage to go live, then, well, most likely you cannot go back to your dears at home and enjoy the dinner with your family, because you have to stay and working, fixing all the bugs that you could not control in this release process. And that's where our journey started. Usually I don't like to advertise anything during the presentation, but I think that this book doesn't need Daniele Romano to be advertised. Anyway, the senior management bought this book. So they read this book, and then, well, they bought many copies. They put the copies on the different engineering floors, and then we started understanding, first of all, and then doing continuous delivery. What was continuous delivery back in time? With continuous delivery, we wanted to solve two main issues. First of all, we wanted to automate as much as possible. We wanted a manufacturing-like production line that could automate all, or ideally, all the manual steps and all the steps that needed some well, human intervention. Only because it's simply too error-prone and the cycle time was too high. While doing so, while improving the lead time, well, definitely we didn't want to forget about the quality, and we had the ambition to improve the quality as well. So being faster, but with higher quality. And this means automating especially all the quality checks that we had in the release process. So let me show a bit the pipeline, the CDAS offering as we have now. Well, this is an example of the Linux/Java application. Everything starts in ServiceNow. In ServiceNow, the managers and the person responsible to define their vision, define the themes, and then based on the vision, we split the vision in epics and stories. Then the DevOps team starts working on these stories. We have a Git as versioning control system, and we have GitLab to share the collaboration and across different teams and across different teams in different countries. When you do a commit, or even better, a merge request, then the team should link the commit and the merge request to the story ID. In this way, we have the traceability with the vision. And ideally, you go straight away to the continuous integration stage. There, in the case of the Java and the Linux application, we have Jenkins. Jenkins orchestrates the build, but there's some quality assurance as well. For instance, we can have Maven to orchestrate the build, and then we can have checks like OWASP, like SonarQube, like 45, that assures that the code, the in-house developed code and the outside delivered code, they don't contain any major critical high vulnerability. As output of this stage, then you have a binary, you go to Artifactory. Artifactory, it's the place where we version the binaries, and it's the place where, again, we enable collaboration across teams in the different countries. So if you don't want to contribute through code, then you can take a binary and reuse in your own application. This continuous integration step is integrated and automated to what was the ops part of our delivery process. Here we have a release automation orchestration tool. Through this release automation, basically what we do, we orchestrate different steps that you should follow in the release journey. So basically, it allows the DevOps team to go to, well, the classical development, testing, acceptance, and production environment in an automated fashion. And depending on the different environment, then you can execute always automatically some test cases. And we have different testing framework, for instance, JMeter, SOAP-UI, et cetera, that depends on the technology of the team. These test cases are, again, defined in GitLab. So after using GitLab, we can say that the DevOps team doesn't need to log in any other system. Cool, we implemented it. I think after, well, 2 years and a half, we already had a lot of application going through the pipeline. We had around 700 applications, and this application could bring, well, the features that our customers were using. Yet, the management still not happy. So, and we still had some long lead time. We still had some reliability issues. And basically what we recognized that we were kind of building a Ferrari, a high-speed car, but we didn't have any idea about driving it. And that's where basically we added an extra layer on top of the pipeline. We use Kafka to get all the events out of the pipeline and to monitor the way we are using the pipeline. So it's not only about the tools, but it's also about using the tools in a proper way. With this analytics approach, then we build a tool we call the Cubes. It's an in-house developed tool. And here, basically, we were visualizing more than 50 metrics, from the frequency of deploying to the frequency of continuous integration, et cetera, et cetera. And we started doing the scientific approach. So getting the facts, trying to understand what's going on that slow down the delivery and try continuously to improve it. And we didn't do this alone as a banking company, but we did it together with some academic institution, for instance, with the Technology University of Delft in the Netherlands and the University of Sannio in Italy. For those of you interested, we have some paper published in scientific conferences. In this paper, what we explain is a bit the best practices that, and the worst practices as well that we were following within ING with regards to continuous delivery and Agile. We have other papers about what are the most bottleneck in the continuous integration stage. And of course, we have papers that were rejected and we are trying to improve. So what were the problems? I don't think it was a great surprise, but we had facts. So first of all, we recognized that we needed to invest more on the cultural innovation. So again, it's not only about the cool technology, it's not about the best tool, it's about using it and having the mindset of using it. The DevOps journey. We didn't start with DevOps. We started with Agile, then we applied continuous delivery, and only at a later stage, we recognized that we had to improve our DevOps journey. And no surprise, well, we are providing banking services. We have regulators, we have a compliancy, and we noticed that this compliancy, well, was too expensive. So we had to find a way to have the same assurance, but with less time. So let's see one by one these problems, and let me give you an idea about, well, how we trying to solving it. Cultural innovation. When it comes on cultural innovation, well, I think this involves your entire organization. And definitely it starts with managers. Why the management? Because portfolio management or the lean portfolio management can be really a critical step. If you spend weeks, months in a long decision-making process, well, then you can go to production in one day, but you still spend a lot in discussing what's the best feature that you have to deliver. And continuous delivery, it's about delivering the feature and then, based on the customer feedback, to decide how to improve or to test your hypothesis. The second point is about understanding what are the bottlenecks within your organization. Most of the time, there are some teams in the organization that are simply a bottleneck in the moment that you want to deliver a functionality. If you have one team that, well, is a bottleneck and gets all the feature requests from hundreds of different teams, well, I think you should reconsider the organization and changing it. Product owner is another important role in this journey. I think it's the most important role because at the end, the product owner is the guy who should give room for improvements within the sprint. If we have only pressure from the product owner and the management and we never have time to make any improvements in the quality of our product, it's impossible also with a continuous delivery, highly automated pipeline to improve the quality. And most of all, continuous delivery is about releasing small and frequently. If the product owner is not able to split a big vision in smaller steps, then we are still doing kind of waterfall approaches. And the last but not least, the most important actors in our organization is the engineer. And the engineer as well needs some shift of mindset, and all the practices that are well explained in the Just Humble book, well, they should be applied and they should have the time to do it. Integrating continuously the change, don't work in isolation and only after weeks, months, then go to your peer and decide to integrate your change. I think it's one of the most important practice. Push your change as far as possible in the continuous delivery process. I think this is another important guideline. If you have a continuous delivery pipeline and then you first spend months in developing and only after months you go to the continuous deployment and testing, well, this is not continuous delivery. So it's better to not spend money in automating the delivery journey. And of course, shift left all the quality checks. In this way, you can fix the issues as soon as they appear without waiting weeks when you already forgot all the context of the change you did. Okay, how ING applied this cultural innovation? I think that we have a great senior management, great executives, and well, it's not easy to transmit this new culture. What they did, they organized. So thousands of people under reorganization of the entire company. They applied the Spotify model. I don't want to go into details about the Spotify model. I think you already know this new organizational way, but I want to highlight 2 points. And the first one is a product owner with IT background. The product owner should understand definitely the business, but if he or she doesn't have any idea about what's mutation testing, what's smoke testing, or what's confidence check, then the quality of the system will never improve, only because they will never reserve time in the sprint. And the last point, but I think this is already, well, I heard many times since this morning, is business in the tribe. So in the moment that you have your business colleagues working together with you, then it's easier to do portfolio management, it's easier to test hypotheses, and you don't spend a long time in the process making process. Another important thing that we did after reorganizing, we basically reviewed the offering of our continuous delivery pipeline. We decided to call continuous delivery as service. Why? Because we don't want to give the tools, we want to give them the mindset and the usage of the tools as well. And that's why we called continuous delivery as service. Right now we have basically one opinionated flow that it's reused by all the different teams that are using the pipeline. So basically we are telling to all the teams to adhere to this flow. And this is challenging. How you can make sure that you have a generic flow working for hundreds of teams. You can follow 2 approaches. The first one, you call your CIO, your CAO, or well, a powerful guy within your organization, and then you ask, okay, please define the flow in the pipeline, and then we're going to dictate it on the floor. Cool, but this is not the approach we followed. What we followed, we created communities. So basically, we took the open source model, and we created communities that they were telling us how the pipeline had to look like. And then we made sure that this pipeline could fit the continuous delivery mindset. It took some more time, but I think that engineers are happier, at least I hope so. And now we have communities that they work with the front end, with API, Scala, .NET, COTS application, TIBCO, etc., etc. Okay, cultural innovation was one, I think it's the most important step in doing this journey. But then, as I already told you, we recognized that we had to do some DevOps transformation. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this slide, even though this is a DevOps conference. But I would like to highlight only one important aspect of the DevOps transformation. How did we, made working together Dev and Ops? Basically, we put everything as code. And not because it's cool to have code, but only because there we could control, make sure that Dev and Ops are working together. So right now in GitLab, we have an authorization group, and only the people within those authorization groups can contribute to one application. There they define everything. So they define a blueprint, a set of blueprints and the manifest file where they can specify the entire IT stack of their application. From the different system that compose the domain, the connection between the system and all the features from the operating system up to the different middleware layers that they have. Basically, what we are doing, we are shifting from a deployment approach where you had an IT stack where all the ops were putting some layer, and then at the end the application team was putting an extra layer on top of this multi-layers system. Now we are assembling, we are transforming towards the assembly of the entire IT stack from few configuration management tools that are versioned in GitLab. Compliancy, we are a banking, we are not delivering pizza every day. We have to be a bit in control, I would say, to what we are releasing and make sure that our customers, they don't suffer any problem. Here we did, I think, two main important improvements. So first of all, we are moving more and more towards immutable patterns. So basically, we want to be sure that after you released an application, that the state of your application will not change over time. So you're confident that what you're putting in production, it stays like you meant. And we have a different way to implement this concept. One is just having immutable servers, containers, or whatever. So you put your virtual machine read-only, then you're sure that, well, this will not change. Another way is to use other configuration management or deploy tool like Puppet, Ansible, Chef that were born and as a self-healing technology. But before going to production, then you should be sure that what you're releasing is compliant to your regulation. And here what we did, remember the Kafka layer, we implemented on top of the Kafka layer an in-house tool that's called iValidate. iValidate, what it does is getting all the events from the pipeline, and then it has some business logic that can tell if the application you're bringing to production is compliant or not, automatically. So now it's becoming an automated tollgate, meaning that before going to production, the release orchestration will send an API call to iValidate, and it will ask, okay, can this application with this version number go to production or not? And then you will get a yes or no. Of course, for managers, there is a magic button to overrule all these criteria if you want to risk your job. But here, basically, you get all the vulnerabilities, you get all the testing results, and then you can profile your application to understand how ready it is to go to production. Okay, finally, management, I think it's much, well, it's happier. At least it's more relaxed. They know that we can complete this big continuous delivery journey. We have improvements both in the reliability and in the lead time. The lead time now, or the cycle time, can take minutes or hours, depending on which functionality you have to bring, depending if you have to perform or not the manual penetration testing or not. But I would say most of all, well, we have a more relaxed engineering floor. So you cannot recognize anymore the teams that are releasing and the teams that, well, they just started their release. What's next? Next, well, it's a global continuous delivery offering. We already started and we already did huge progress. ING has a business, retail or commercial business in over 40 countries in the world, and we want the teams to reuse this central shared CDAS offering. And before concluding, those are, well, some numbers to give you an idea about the usage of this pipeline. So on average, we are onboarding in the pipeline around 50 applications every month, and we have in total 1,000 applications going to production with the pipeline. It means that more or less 700 teams are using the pipeline from across the globe, with mainly usage within Europe. To wrap up, because I think my time is up, I showed you, well, where we were back in time, what was the complexity of our release process. I showed you, of course, our continuous delivery pipeline, and I went through, well, what we think are the main challenges of this journey, from the cultural innovation to the review of the Devops journey, down to, well, having a better control of the compliancy. And with this, I would really, I'm thankful that you joined this presentation. I hope that I gave you something to you that will open a bit, well, will give you some feedback for your journey. And I'm not sure if I have time for questions. No, I don't have. Thank you.